Welcome back to my Let's Play of Battalion Wars. We're here with the 5th level of the game. It's the first level in the game that really challenges you to make good decisions when you're playing through the stage. In fact, I got stuck on it for a little while when I was first playing. Nowadays, I can do pretty well at it, but I still never did manage to get a perfect score in this level. But I don't really care about perfect scores, just S ranks. I can still do those.
Good morning, Commander. I trust this day finds you fighting fit and ready for tactical combat. The scouts you rescued in your last mission have provided us with the location of one of the key Tundran command posts in this quadrant. Your task is to capture the Tundran HQ at Castle Potemkin so that we can learn more about Marshal Nova's battle plans. The Tundrans have fortified the entry points to the castle grounds with bazooka veterans, making a mechanized frontal assault impossible. A Tundran prison camp lies to the east. I suggest you free the Flame veteran POWs being held there and make good use of them.
Did anyone notice there was an ammo dump right next to the barbed wires that was holding the prisoners in? Yeah, that's about as good as the POW camps get in this game. They're not very secure. So as was stated, we obviously can't just attack them right now. We don't have a very good army yet. So we'll have to go and free the POWs to strengthen our army. And that is basically how every level in this game works. Free POWs, then finish your primary objectives. And you have to free POWs too, because that counts towards your technique rank. At least, pretty sure it does. They don't really tell you what does or doesn't count in this game. They do in the sequel, though. So freeing them here is pretty easy. There's nothing but the light tank and a couple of rifle grunts. The Flame Veteran is a new unit introduced in this level. It obviously has a flamethrower, and that is really good for burning down infantry. It's almost kind of cruel because you can set them on fire too. Look at this guy. He just keels over and dies because he was on fire for too long. Ever heard of stop, drop, and roll, buddy? Yeah, and I'll also be driving the Recon for a little bit here to show that it has an additional gun on it now. We couldn't fire it in the previous levels for no real reason other than they didn't want us to. Now, one thing I should mention with the Flame Veteran is that while it looks like it can charge its weapon, it does get more powerful the more you hold the button down, but eventually it will overheat if you don't let go of the button for a little bit. And if it does overheat, you'll have to wait a little while before being able to use it again. There are a couple other units that work this way. So there's another POW camp on top of that hill to our right, so we're going to have to climb up there. And one thing I don't really like about this level is that the entrance to the second POW camp is all the way across the map from the first one. Oh, of course, you could drive quickly there with a Recon, but your other units have to get there too, and they're pretty slow, especially the tank. But we don't really need the tank for this first part of the hill here, because it's full of bazooka veterans, and we don't want them to be taking shots at the tank. So we'll just take it out with them out with our single bazooka veteran. And this is a much better example of how broken the bazooka veteran can be against any land unit. If the unit that you're firing at isn't moving, it doesn't matter if they're agile. If they're just staying in place, they're still going to get hit, and a charged bazooka shot can pretty much nail them in one hit. There's some enemy Flame Veterans coming up. I shouldn't have attacked this one because now he and his buddies are going to come down here and try to take out my infantry. And yes, I actually did manage to lose one. So goodbye technique rank. That's really embarrassing because there's nothing but Flame Veterans up here. I've been experimenting with damage a little bit later on in some of the later levels, and oh yes, apparently they managed to conceal an entire tank in barbed wires, and that apparently disables it somehow. Yeah, I have no idea how prison camps in this game work. I mean, they don't take the weapons away from the units so that they can't fight back the instant they're freed. They don't think to steal the tank for themselves, but oh, it's not their color. Of course they can't take it. So apparently there are a couple vehicles in the game that flame veterans are decent against, but I suppose I'll have to point them out as we go. Now we have to actually attack the castle here. And there's obviously a bunch of bazooka veterans like you saw in the cutscene, so we're going to have to burn them down first. Flame veterans are just fine for that, though I suppose you could use rifle grunts. But you have flame veterans, so why not? Suffice to say, these units would be a lot more threatening in the hands of a competent player and not the AI. I didn't mention it, but the unit that you're controlling directly actually has better firepower and health. From a statistical standpoint, even beyond the fact that you're actually controlling them and the AI isn't. This is much more visible in the sequel. I actually have done a bit of data mining for the sequel, but I never found anything too interesting apart from damage rates and how to change the music. Which is a real shame, because if this game had a level editor, I would be playing it for hundreds and hundreds of hours rather than the mere 15 hours that have been clocked into my save file. So for attacking the castle, once the bazooka veterans are burned away, it's time to blow up the light tanks. With your own, of course. And there's another new unit on the enemy side here. A heavy tank is, simply put, a stronger light tank, but it's also slower. You can see here that the way to deal with them is to circle around them with a light tank. If there was a second heavy tank, this would be much, much harder. Foreshadowing for the next level we're going to after this. Oh, and be sure to take out the MG nests too. Can't expect your infantry to deal with those very well. Nope. Now, I should just go ahead and capture the flag now. You can order your units to go and capture it, but some reinforcements are going to fly in here. And I should also mention that T-copters are the most overpowered unit in the game, because if they land on top of a light tank, they will destroy it instantly. I don't know how that works. Their landing positions are fixed, so as long as you know where they're going to land, you can avoid getting squished. And it has happened to me a couple times. But anyways, the reinforcements consist of nothing but rifle grunts and maybe another tank I didn't see. More reinforcements come by if you don't raise the flag quick enough, so we might as well take it now. You'll just have to trust that I did in fact take the flag, because it's not on screen when the mission finishes. Also, say goodbye to Major Nelly, because she's never going to appear in this game ever again outside of one cutscene later on in the game, and it is a very throwaway appearance. The game doesn't exactly make good use of the characters that the developers seemingly don't like. Oh well, nobody ever cared about characterization in a war game. No, we only want S ranks, which is what I got. I even got a new high score. The game only saves when you get a new high score, so while it may look like I only have 15 hours on my save, that's not accounting for play sessions that did not result in a new high score. Next up, things are going to get a little bit harder. We're also going to be introduced to what has got to be the most broken land unit in the entire game.
I got a mission for you this time, Commander. Our men rifled through some drawers back at Castle Potemkin and came up with the location of Marshal Nova's elite tank division. And guess what? It's up to you to go head-to-head with Nova's nasty old tanks and destroy every last one of them.
You have made a grave error in coming here, General. The Iron Eight are undefeatable.
Hogwash! My boys can take your armor any day of the week.
A classic Advance Wars mission. Units that aren't too powerful against heavy tanks. Anyways, I drive up to the first tank and shoot at it with a recon in order to draw it away from where it's going. If you leave it alone, it'll go further into the level and you'll have to deal with a bunch of other units at the same time. This first heavy tank, since I've drawn it away from the rest of its army, goes down pretty quickly. The other tanks aren't going to be quite so easy. In fact, dealing with multiple types of enemies is what constitutes for most of the difficulty in this level. It's worth noting that this is another example of me using the Y button to direct my units to a specific position rather than having them follow me, because if they're following you, then they won't actually actively shoot at things on their way to wherever you directed them to. Really, you've got to keep them in wait mode so that they actually shoot at things. It's a horrible AI problem, but it's not like this, it ruins the game. In fact, it actually makes it kind of fun. So, we have a new unit, the Missile Veteran. We saw it briefly in the fourth mission, but now I can do a proper introduction to it. As you can see, it has heat-seeking missiles that take out gunships and other air units. Although, it's pretty much made for destroying gunships. It has a charge shot as well, although it only changes how many missiles get fired, so you're probably better off mashing the A button. Now, I want to mention that while the missile is built for air units, the developers made a couple mistakes when making it that make it good for taking out any land unit. You'll see that while the missiles fired track enemy air units, they kind of sputter out and go randomly against other ground units. But if you fire at point blank, then there's a good chance the missile will actually hit, and its explosion has a radius. It doesn't need to hit directly. And it does way too much damage when it hits a non-air unit. They nerfed this in the sequel so that it's way less powerful. In fact, I could take down every enemy in this entire mission with a single missile unit if I felt the need to do so. Also, you're a little late there warning me about the gunships there, CO boy, because I already destroyed most of them. Gosh. Is there another heavy tank? There. Yes. The bazooka veterans are best for taking out the heavy tanks. While your light tanks will do a decent amount of damage, they're too slow to avoid being shot. Although, they are more resistant to the heavy tank's machine guns, so, you know, there's a couple more rifle grunts in this area. You have to destroy them all if you want maximum power rank, and this one in particular is hiding way away from where the rest of its buddies were. Now normally, there's a bit of a path split here. You can go left or right. Right is going to take a little while to climb that hill and get to where the next heavy tank is, but hey, why not? I like going through the same level, but backwards. It makes things interesting. Aw, nothing but a bunch of rifle grunts guarding this area, though. Seem to be able to climb the hill, which is really weird. You obviously can't climb a hill if it's too steep.
Sir, yes, sir.
Right up this hill should be... Yes, the next two heavy tanks are here. These are a lot harder to deal with because there's two of them at once. The circle strafe and bazooka shot strategy that I've used on previous heavy tanks is much less effective when you have two of them to deal with. So this time around, we'll just use long-range bazooka shots. That's another advantage that the bazooka veterans have. They can be long-ranged if you use charged shots, not that the AI ever takes advantage of that. No, but I seem to be... Yes, that was a bit of a blunder on my part. I lose like 5 bazooka vets here. There's 2. There's 3. And I'm gonna lose this one too. But hey, 4 tanks down, we're halfway there. You know, it's interesting. If all 8 heavy tanks attacked your battalion all at once, this would be the hardest level in the entire series. This would be harder than some Advanced Wars hard campaign maps if every unit decided to attack you all at once. But no, they're just content to sit there and wait. Of course, if they did all attack you at once, then we wouldn't have a game. Now see, this is what I mean when I say I took the back entrance, because those sandbags are pointed away from where we came in. So clearly we must have come in the back way, right? Those 2 heavy tanks were probably meant to be fought last. This is sort of a last-minute challenge. Except there's a voice clip that plays when you have 7 tanks down and only 1 to go, so... and I don't care anymore. Here's another heavy tank. The rest of them are fought one at a time, so this is probably going to be boring to watch. The tank's explosion shells also have range, and it is in fact possible to hurt yourself by shooting your own tank shell too close to where you fired from, like if you're up against a wall and fire directly at a wall. This isn't too dangerous because it will only affect you if you're completely stupid. Then again, the AI might be prone to that. Let's hope they aren't. Even the tank is having a little bit of fun bouncing around. Normally only the recon gets to do that kind of thing. Oh look, a gunship. Bye, gunship. You will not be missed. Gunships are one of the most annoying things in this game, in my opinion, but they're also one of the easiest destroyed. This heavy tank can be a little bit annoying because of the level objects there that don't get destroyed. If you tried to fire your tank shell over it, then you might get hit by your own explosion. Or at the very least, the tank shell wouldn't go through. You can also get the light tank stuck on it, which isn't good. I suppose I must have drawn that other heavy tank in somehow. Anywho, there's only 1 left. These level objects also kind of look like jerry cans, which is why I was trying to run over one of them. It can also be annoying when your tank starts to smoke, because the smoke will hinder your vision. Makes the second camera angle very useful. Sort of. The music for this level is actually pretty good. Much of the music in Battalion Wars 1 is kind of hit or miss, but it doesn't really matter anyways because it's drowned out by combat noises most of the time. The sequel has much better audio balancing, so that'll be something to look forward to, and the music is very good. Uh-oh, don't fall in the water, don't fall in the water. Oh, just barely. Just barely avoided falling in the water. I don't think I'll be able to destroy these grunts in time before the level ends. Well, I missed 1. That shouldn't be enough. That shouldn't be enough to lower my power rank, though. It did. This is again a new high score for me, though, so that's very nice. I wonder if anyone's ever gotten perfect 100s on all the maps. Don't answer that. Please don't answer that. Next time we'll take on an unlockable level.